It's Simon Ensor, and I'm here for Virtually Connecting. And we're virtually connecting with people all around the place, and in particularly in a pub, I think, or it's a hotel bar in Manchester. And we've got a bunch of people who pretend they have
Oh, we lost you, Simon.
been to the in the UK. So we're going to go straight to them quickly. And what's the weather like in Manchester?
It's very sunny actually today.
It's
really
beautiful. Manchester. Right. I think I brought the California weather with me.
This is proof they are not in Manchester. So I'm going to go straight to Autumn. Can you present yourself very quickly, Autumn?
Hi, I'm Autumn Keynes, Columbus, Ohio.
Okay. Where are you, Autumn?
She said
Columbus, Ohio, United States.
Okay, right. Cynthia?
I am Italian, but I'm currently in Manchester. I work as a learning technologist at the University of Manchester, and I'm also doing a master MSc at the University of Edinburgh in digital education. So I'm a little bit all over the place.
Okay, well, you need to tweet the guys in the pub to know which pub they're in. And then we have Bonnie.
Hi there, I'm Bonnie Stewart. I am in Prince Edward Island, Canada, out on the East Coast waving across the Great Pond.
Have you got any snow yet?
I was at the beach yesterday, and it's the last day of summer. Today, took the children to school. It started to rain, dropped 10 degrees, and I expect snow tomorrow.
My God, it's worse than Manchester. George.
Hello, I'm George Station, and I'm in actually the Monterey area, California. I'm at Cal State Monterey Bay, which used to be the lovely and talented Fort Ord, a U.S. Army base. And I've kept some of the weather. It's lovely here, about in the 70s. It's supposed to be about 80 degrees F today.
I'll have to come visit you sometime. I live in Santa Clara.
Hey, we'll have to meet in the middle.
On to Keith.
Whoops. Hi guys, this is Keith Hammond. I'm from Macon, Georgia, and I do not expect any snow anytime soon.
So, do you have a...
Is it?
It's Simon. We're losing you. We're not hearing you at all.
Okay, I said to Keith, do you have a big house?
Yes, I do. I have a very big house. You're all welcome. We can do our next hangout there.
Okay, this is now evidence on YouTube, public. We're all going to Keith's house. Date we'll fix after the broadcast.
No shoveling for me this year. Moving to Florida. Woohoo!
Absolutely, it's right here. Come on down.
Thanks.
I got
Right,
space.
Let's go to Manchester. Manchester, the poor people in Manchester. Speak to us about ALT.
Okay.
So today's been a good day, the first day of the conference, and actually this is the first time Maha and I have met each other in person. Yes. And Suzan and Maha and I, and Ash and I have met several times previously because we seem to be conference buddies. Yeah. Where do we want to go? I'm Rebecca Hogue. I live in sunny Santa Clara, California, and I'm in Manchester now, and I'm a Canadian in California.
Yeah. And I'm Maha. I'm from Cairo, and I'm here for just the second day of the conference, which is tomorrow. And right now, we've got also with us Suzan.
Hi everyone, Suzan here. I'm originally from Turkey, but I currently live in the UK right now. Yeah.
And Suzanne's going to be one of our virtual buddies this time around, and I think you're virtually budding for me at the club conference on Saturday.
Yes, that's correct. So.
Yes.
And my daughter is here playing with Ash and Frances over there. Hi guys. So we've been thinking about how virtually connecting has evolved a lot. Like this is the first time that neither Rebecca nor I are virtual for one of these. It's the first time we meet, obviously.
Yeah. Although we did one, there was one virtual that Alan did.
But we were in the conference.
We were in the.
We're just not in the particular hangout, right? Yeah.
No,
there
the
were a couple of
DigPed. At
Yeah.
DigPed, there were a couple where we were not around. But this is sort of interesting because it's actually the first. Actually, I think it becomes full circle now that Maha's going to get a chance to be on site. Then she will have experienced all of it, and I have experienced all of it when I became virtual at DigPed at the last conference, and did more of that.
And Suzanne gets a fast track, right? She gets to be on site today, and she has to be virtual next couple of days.
And so it's actually, we're so happy to see so many more people getting involved, and just being part of it, and having so many great new virtual people, as well as more people at conferences wanting to be part of Virtually Connecting.
All right, so we've got a few people who've signed up to be Virtually Connecting buddies that we don't even know at all.
Yeah, that's actually a new revolution.
Yeah, they've never been part of one.
A new revolution. So a couple of new things we have. On Friday and Saturday, we're doing a couple hangouts at an e-patient conference. It's an engaged patient conference, medical education at Queen's University of Belfast, that I'm attending. And what's interesting there is they've got people that are actually not necessarily tech savvy even, coming in and joining Hangouts for the first time. And so branching beyond educational technology conferences to other conferences. And I think that's an exciting sort of new area. And I'm really hoping it plays out in the e-patient area, because quite often engaged patients aren't actually physically able to be at conferences for health reasons. And yet we want to be able to have their voices heard. So I think that's going to be a particularly interesting arena. But then there's also people that, neither of us know that are offering to come up and host and be part of Virtually Connecting, and that's really exciting too. We always love it when we meet new people.
And like this hangout was just, we wanted to share the excitement of us being for the first time. And it was like,
I look over every now and then, I'm like, she's really here.
It was really funny, was like when I first saw her, like, and then big hugs, and then everything was normal. Like, Rebecca, you know? And my daughter was like, just cuddling up to her, like, she's used to her. This is Rebecca, what are you doing? Like, it's Rebecca, we see her all the time. So, and she got used to Suzanne really quickly, too. Even not used to seeing her online.
I have a question for you guys.
She's with Ashley now. She's not with us.
Do you guys have any questions for us?
Yeah, I have a question. So now, are you virtual buddies, or what are you now? At what stage were you not virtual?
I don't even think we were ever virtual buddies. We were always just buddies. It's a virtual buddy anyway.
There's a quote. There's a tweet for you. What's a virtual buddy anyway?
So what is a virtual buddy?
It's just that moment when you're not actually there, but it's you're not a different kind of buddy, I think. I don't feel virtual with you either, and I've never met you. So.
Cynthia, you're in Manchester.
Yeah.
Are you virtual?
No, well, in a sense. No, I have a question for Mara and
Rebecca?
Yes. What is, in your opinion, what has been so far the most interesting talk at the conference? I know the conference is not over yet, but anyway, anything that was particularly enlightening or interesting?
Well, so for me, what was really interesting is after lunch, we did the hangout with Steve and Becca and Kate, a couple of his students, Steve Wheeler and his students. And for me, that was actually the most rewarding part, because we sat down at couches and we had a conversation, and we had a conversation with about 8 other people that were online in the first Virtually Connecting session. But that actually lasted almost the entire session that was scheduled for. But when we actually went offline, and we were finished there, our conversations continued. And we started talking, and I actually really, had some. I made a couple of great connections. Leanne from South
Yeah.
Africa, as well as Becca and Kate were talking, and I was asking them about how they're teaching computing concepts in elementary education in the UK, which is actually quite phenomenal. And it's really neat to talk to people that their jobs are teacher educators. So they are actually just graduating now from Teachers College, but their role is going to be the technical support for teachers within the school system. So they would be like the technical people and so they're a little bit afraid of that because they're young and just graduating and coming out, and suddenly they're going to be the experts with the technology. But it was great to talk to them and just sort of get their sense. And I just loved that they had to take a selfie with the crowd. That was the first thing they did at the keynote. So it was that was I think probably the highlight. Actually, it was really getting a chance to talk to them. I thought.
I just want to tell you guys some funny things because I haven't yet, right? My only exposure to the conference is what Rebecca's been telling me. There's two funny things that just happened now sitting next to her. First of all, I wanted to send her a private message while she was talking. I'm used to being able to, without anybody else knowing what we're doing, I'm trying to whisper to her, which is really funny. And the second thing is, I've never seen you in profile, and I had to look at your profile now.
It's like, yeah, she always, it's just sort of like the seeing full body Maha. That's the other, you only ever
So I'm
see
not that much taller than you. I didn't feel like.
No, we're about like an inch taller, but it doesn't really feel like, we feel about the same height. I thought she would be taller.
It's Suzan Papa.
Ash and Susan, we need to know if you're taller or smaller than the two others.
Yeah, I think I'm way smaller.
Actually, we're on the other side having an in-depth conversation about her dissertation work.
And Hoda's interrupting it, but she's making.
Hoda's
should we just say your towering online presences, and leave it at that.
I have a question.
Yes.
I've been participating for a number of years in a small liberal arts conference here in the States, and by and large, this group of people is they're not anti-technology, but they just don't pay attention to technology, and they're a little reluctant to buy into technology. So how might I introduce this whole idea of a buddy chat to this liberal arts conference, especially in declining budgets? And their attendance has been falling off in the last few years. And how might I get them to see this as something viable? And is it viable?
It depends on what you're trying to do with it. In our case, it's really where we have the most success are actually with conferences that have a virtual presence, for one thing. Although
so that at least people could watch the keynotes before we hang out with the keynote speaker, for example. But that's not always
the case. Yeah. It's certainly not going to be the case with Club. And actually with that one, it's really about just connecting people that haven't really connected. They've connected via Twitter, but have not connected in a synchronous hangout kind of way. And so people will be hanging out for the first time. And I think that, I don't know, it's not for everyone, but
I think there are two things that I think are important to make something like that work. Is having a virtual person who wishes they were there. So I think if the people who are, so the virtual, and an on-site person who's willing to make those connections and to find people on site and to connect them to the virtual person. So either the on-site or the virtual person needs to be really well connected, or both. Like when it's Rebecca and me, it was really successful. To connect to the people on site who would be willing then to come in onto the Hangout. But how to convince people to do that before they've ever tried it is quite difficult, right? So maybe show them one of the Hangouts that doesn't have a very technical topic. So maybe I think the one from Haystack wasn't a very technical conversation.
Haystack was a brilliant one, I think. It was it was a turning point one for us because it was a meaningful conversation. but you know, with people sitting on a couch having a conversation,
Yeah.
and it really had that
We've
couch
been-
discussion
We've been looking
feel.
for couches ever since.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's and the topic was something that I think many liberal arts people would relate to, and we talked about liberal arts a lot. So because I'm trying to find just one that relates, and our Prof Hacker article uses that hangout as an example. So if you give them that article and they have that example of the video, and then they see if they want to try it. And you should probably offer to do some part of it, of the organizing of it. And then Keith, you can be just part of our virtually connecting Slack group, and you'll see who else in the group is interested in buddying with you, and we'll make it work. Does that make sense? We can talk about this again later, of course. And this is an invitation to everybody watching as well.
Oh,
Do you want to come and show them this?
Yeah, that does make sense. I really like the idea of sort of prepping them so that they, if I understood you correctly, prepping them so that they have a sense of what they're getting into. And I think I can find the people who would be willing to engage that way.
I think it does really help if you have a couple people at the conference site backing you up and supporting you, because then they can. Well, first of all, I think it makes a big difference if someone mentions it on the main stage, and that's what happened at DigPed. We got mentioned right away, early on, so people knew what we were doing, and so it wasn't this, odd thing happening in the background or whatever. We knew about it, and I think that helps a lot. We're going to be doing a lot of really interesting things at the D-Learn conference, and so I think that we'll probably have some really great promo footage coming out of that as well, because we'll be doing lots of fun stuff. And
I have a couple more.
There.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to ask Bonnie to give us. She's frozen, or if she can hear us. But maybe Bonnie can give you an idea of. Because she's been on site twice with us virtually connecting, and digital pedagogy I think was different slightly from online. So what do you think made it work there?
Well, what I wanted to actually say, I like what you've done with virtually connecting in this. You haven't tried to replicate the conference, but rather give people an opportunity to find ways of participating if they're interested. And not, like you say, right, it's not for everyone. Not everyone's going to be interested in participating in this way. But for many of us who, like I've never been able to go to Alt-C because this is always the very first week of school. I run a program. I teach. My daughter's birthday is Thursday. And so Alt-C is just something that for Dave and I, because he seems to be colonized, I'm using it's not working. But we've never made it to Alt-C, and yet there are always people there that we'd love to talk to, and so it's kind of fun to just sort of be able to have those conversations. And there's probably people there that I actually don't know, who I'm hoping maybe I'll be able to connect or see little bits of conversations with as well. What it does for me is it gives me a sense of a taste of the place when I'm not there, when I've been on site. So when you spoke to my track at Digital Pedagogy Lab, it was just kind of one alternative way of saying, here's a way that you can participate and network people with other people, not around content, but around sort of building those conversations and relationships. And that's the part that I see as most important. Now for me, I'm a weird person who is totally comfortable in face-to-face social settings and actually doesn't love Hangouts. I don't love synchronous digital stuff. And so I tend to pull back and sort of feel always a little shy and never quite know how to jump in some of these situations. And yet the more that I do it, the more comfortable that I get. And so there's also building my own literacies. That's a part of it. And the more that one does jump in, the less intimidating or the less sort of strange it becomes. And that can be valuable too, particularly if you're encouraging people to try participatory stuff.
So let me jump in and add a little to what Bonnie said, and I think it might help Keith as well. My first virtually connecting was at the Digital Pedagogy Lab Summer Institute, and it was just the casual, unofficial, in the hallway hangouts that you guys were doing, and it worked extremely well just to keep us engaged in a way that we were not engaged in the formal sessions, but it was still connecting people to the conference who were not physically at, UW-Madison for Digital Pedagogy Lab. I thought that was my impression from just being in the hallway, coming in and out of a hangout. that way without an official agenda. I think that helped the type of network building that Bonnie was just discussing. That was not devoid of content. It was on topic for the conference, but it was not agenda-driven in the usual sense of a conference session. So and it was perfectly all right to do it that way. It wasn't a waste of time. It helped build the connections, and in fact, it's why I'm here now, right? Part of it is because I had the prior experience about a month ago. So all of that's useful. I think the other aspect is the slow build as you're trying to prep someone who may not be anti-tech, but may not be sure what to do or may not be engaged, is something like hybrid pedagogy. Because there are people who are in, nice lengthy blog posts and so on, discussing issues of actual humanities, liberal arts stuff, right? They're talking liberal arts. I think that's what's, maybe the key there. They're not just talking technology, which is not going to engage people who aren't already into it. They're actually talking pedagogy, which will probably engage liberal arts people over the long term. So if you want to ease them into it, maybe just connecting them with digital humanists, in that way.
Are you there? I'm thinking you probably have something to say about this too. Or maybe she's
Sorry, Maha, can you
I'm not
repeat?
sure. I was just asking Autumn if she had something to add. I think she unmuted herself, so I'll give her a chance.
I thought you were calling on me. I wasn't sure. It kind of cut out at the beginning there, and all I heard was the and I was like, oh wow. Yeah, I guess what I want to say is, I've been doing virtually connecting for I did it for Haystack as just a participant, and then I virtual buddied for DigPed, and I'm virtually buddying and kind of doing some back-end organizing for this one. And I love the like connections that I'm making when I'm doing this organizing. Like, I'm meeting so many people, and my digital literacy is like off the charts, because like I'm on Slack, and then I'm on Twitter, and then I'm on Google, and I'm setting up Hangouts, and I'm like doing all of this stuff and juggling all of these different technologies. So that's the part of it that, this part is great. I love getting into Hangouts and talking to cool people, but I really like the organizing piece of it. I really like, kind of juggling different things and meeting different people, that part of it. And my question for you guys, I want you guys to talk a little bit about your session, because your session kind of talks about how you guys came together, and then because you were together, you created this thing. So can you tell us a little bit about your session and about what you guys are presenting on at the conference?
We're actually presenting on RISO 14, so last year's RISO, and how the Facebook group allowed us, or somehow the Facebook group was the thing that made it more of a community, I think, than previous experiences, and how we went sort of beyond community.
Yeah, and then the experience of, it was a course, but then it kept going after the course. We became Facebook friends afterwards, and that's sort of also.
So one of the slides I'm presenting, it was actually the invite. So she sent me an invite, a Facebook invite, but it was very elegantly worded, and it wasn't just the generic invite to random people that people do that I get often. But I was like, how do I know this person? But it was with a personal note. It said, I think we have a lot in common. I think we could be friends, kind of thing. If you want to be friends, but don't be offended if you don't want, if you don't want, because not everybody wants to make that bridge, cross that line between colleague and professional setting into the personal setting.
And like what you're describing, I learned from Sarah Honeychurch. She was the first Facebook person, RISO 14 person to befriend me on Facebook, and she didn't like that. She's like,
and she's the lead author.
And she's the lead author on the paper.
Yeah.
But she's still at the conference right now, so she couldn't join us for this hangout. So she was the first person who became my friend on Facebook from that course. and the way she did it was to open up the opportunity for me to say no, that I didn't want to cross that boundary. But I think somehow when that boundary started to get crossed, and then a while later I became friends with, I think, Simon and Becca and a few other people, and then Dave and Bonnie, and then it just became normal.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's really particularly interesting is that I feel like I know Dave and Bonnie's kids.
Yeah.
Just from their Facebook. I've never met them before, but from their Facebook, I know the kids quite well.
And like everybody here, so speaking of friendship and everything, everybody here is coming in and either they've sent something to Rebecca at home, or they got her something small, or she's playing with them, and I mean, it's just something special to be able to meet someone you can both talk to about professional things, and at the same time they care about you. And what Rebecca did at PT4 Online, being my buddy, I know she says that she benefited from it too, but to me it's like the most generous thing to know how frustrated I was that I wasn't able to go to PT4 Online and meet all these people that I love, and to offer to be my connection to those people. That was just. And then I can't believe I know.
No, but really, and for me, it really was. It was an opportunity for me to come out of my shell, where I normally would be the quiet person in the back of the room, whatever, socially not wanting to reach out. But now then, at ET4 Online, I had Maha and all of the people, so I was seeing all of the people that she was sort of connecting me with. And I think, that's what tomorrow's going to be like at all. I may not get to many of the sessions, but I'm going to meet a whole bunch of really cool people and actually get to make connections with these people through virtually connecting. And so for me, that's actually more important than standing there listening to people in sessions. I can get their PowerPoint slides by texting them later. But I think that it's going to be the discussions that we have for virtually connecting that are going to be more valuable for me.
And because for me as someone who can't go to a lot of conferences, it's that social capital aspect that I miss in conferences that was a big deal, and that's what virtually connecting is. Because you can read their papers later, you can see their slides, you can even talk to them on Twitter later. Mm-hmm. But just being in that moment at the buzz of the conference and what people are talking about, what are people talking about right now? And you kind of feel like you're up to date with the conversations about what's going on everywhere.
So yeah, that's one of the things that I love about it, is that it's not necessarily like the thing itself, but it's a vehicle for something else. So, I wrote this blog post recently about doors and different doors that were able to be opened or closed to you, and one of the metaphors that got cut from that piece was this idea that, sometimes what you need is just like that, maybe even if the door isn't locked, right? And it's definitely like you could get in there, but you need that kind of person to just sort of whisper in your ear and say, just try the handle. You might, there's something interesting behind there. Just, try it out, see what happens. And so I feel like it does a lot of that. I feel like it kind of enables me to try, whereas in other places maybe I'd be too shy, or I wouldn't, really be able to get to that place. So
it's funny how many people here, if we look at the people here, are how they're connected, because a lot of it comes out of firstly RISO 14. But, for example, with Keith, this is not the first time we hung out. I can remember, we have them on YouTube, how many moments of Keith getting up at about 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning in Florida to speak to me in Clarksville.
It was worth it.
Guys, you guys
lunchtime to do it.
But we have to wrap up because the place here is getting busy and everybody's babysitting Huda. We have Francis and Suzan and Ash have been babysitting Huda for the past half hour.
So yeah, we need to get back to it.
So thank you guys so much.
Thank you. All the people who are there, and everybody have a day.
Okay.
Okay, then.
We'll see some of you in the morning, probably. So. Early in the morning here. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
So you guys, do you want to continue a moment, or do you want to stop?
I'm going to have to dash off to class in a few minutes, but I can stay for maybe another minute, something like that, and then I've got to get across campus. But I think I'll be back in. I think my next one is tomorrow morning at that 5 something in the morning that Keith was talking about. But it's all for the cause. The whole point is what we talked about in the first place is the connections, whether we call it connectivism or social capital or both. That's how it happens, right? Sometimes you just have to show up, and this is one of those times.
So we'll let you guys go, right?
Okay then.
Bye.
Bye.
Right.
Have a nice evening.
I don't know how to operate your iPad.
Goodbye, all.
Take care. Okay.
Okay. Well,
George.
okay. Bye-bye. Bonnie, good to see
Bye,
you.
Autumn. Lovely to talk to you.
Autumn, good
Bye,
to meet
Bonnie.
you finally.
Bye, George. And then there were 3.
And then there were
And there
3.
are 2.
3.
And there's
I'm still
1.
here.
Right, Autumn.
I only
you
have
off?
a couple minutes. I only have a couple
Okay.
minutes, but
And
yeah.
we're still live.
And we're still live.
We can
It's
say
important to be
awful
live.
things. We can all talk at once now.
It gets so crazy when there's so many people in, and if somebody doesn't mute and they've got a noisy environment, oh, just forget it.
Yep. Yeah. I didn't get to my other questions, but I will. There'll be other opportunities. But what do you guys? I'll talk to you two. What do you guys think really is the best way to help the remote people? Let's say you're the person on the ground, and what can you do to help those remote people engage in some way, feel like they're not replicate the conference, but connect to the conference in some way? I don't know. Or is that even necessary, or is that sort of beside the point?
So I don't think it's beside the point. I think maybe it goes back to that whole idea that, having a more diverse pool of people looking at problems or looking at knowledge or looking at things really enhances the ability to ask questions and grows that knowledge base. And so I have to think, even though everybody at the conference is like ed tech people, and most of the virtual people coming in are ed tech people, there's just something about bringing some people in who aren't there, who aren't on site. I think it's very beneficial for both sides. So I think that the virtuals are getting a lot out of hearing about what's happening at the conference and getting questions from the folks there. But I think that the people that are there are also benefiting a lot from receiving those questions and kind of maybe thinking about things in a different way.
Getting that outside input, that exchange from beyond their boundaries. Yeah, I think
it's also a question of making space, because I've followed ALT for a couple of years, but I'd never had the space to actually take the time to actually chat with people. And I think often when in conferences, people don't necessarily make the time to chat. And it's just a sort of ritual which we can establish where there is that capture of a moment, and I think that is something which is precious, because I think too often we're sort of rushing from one thing to the next, but the in-between is actually what's most important. And I think for me, this is the in-between.
Yeah.
I like in-between
space.
I really like in-between spaces. Can I take a moment just to kind of recognize something really quickly?
Sure.
This is the first time I've ever talked to Keith real time.
Hi,
synchronous environment. Hi, Keith.
From one old hippie to another.
So that's a real treat for me, because Keith and I have commented on each other's blogs and spent some time on Twitter together and done a bunch of asynchronous
good
stuff.
Conversation.
Really good conversation. It's really a treat to meet you.
Well, thank you, and likewise. This is what this is the stuff that makes it all good for me. Simon made reference to some hangouts we did earlier in, maybe it's been a year now. It's been a few months, and I lose track of months, so I'm not quite sure how long ago, but we were chatting, and a guy, Terry Elliott. Have you met Terry, Autumn? Okay. Terry's at his place in Kentucky, and we're having this conversation, and I'm hearing chickens, and and I'm thinking, okay, I'm up at 5 in the morning in South Florida, and Terry must be up at 4 in the morning, and there are chickens there, and I'm not sure what to do with that. And then at some time, Simon brings in one of his associates, maybe a past student or something, who's somewhere in Thailand or someplace. Where was he, Simon? I
He was
can't
on a
remember.
beach in Thailand.
Yeah, on a beach in Thailand. And so there I am, and I'm in a pretty nice place, but this is getting really strange for me, and I'm enjoying it so much. And so it's these connections that we're making with all these different people, and I like the idea that Simon just said. It creates a space where people can get together and just play, just have a little playful time, and say, this is cool and this is worth doing, and wow, aren't you guys interesting? I know more now than I did then, because I've had the opportunity to talk with some really clever people and some enjoyable people, and it's made things richer for me.
So I've been thinking about this old adage of, it's not what you know, but who you know, and how that's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of looked down upon, like, oh, you're going to get where you're wanting to go because you get some type of social thing. But I don't think that's necessarily what it means, right? It's not what you know, it's who you know, because what you know is who you know, right?
Exactly, and it's the who you know that actually enriches you to make you that smarter, more capable person.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the mistake in the people who don't like that, their mistake is in thinking that all of your resources are internal, and if they're not, then somehow you're faking it or you don't really have it. That just isn't true. Um, you know, Simon and I got into this little haiku thing with some other people back in, I can't even remember. Was it Rhizo 14 or 15, Simon? I don't remember.
I don't know. It's all for me.
We
It's
did
all
a
confusing.
Sestina. We did a
Anyway,
Sestina in 15.
yeah, and so we got into that, and I'm thinking, gee, I'm really smart.
And clever
but
and artistic.
I'm really clever, but it was because of all of these people I was working with that gave me that space where I could do things that I just wouldn't have done. I just wouldn't have gotten into it. It never would have come my way, and so I think whatever genius or talent we have is really awakened, and sort of the embers are fanned by the people we're around, and if they're being active and moving, then the heat gets up, and sparks fly, and all of a sudden you really are smarter than you thought you were, and it's because of all of that stuff, that interaction. At least that's the way it seems to me.
I gotta go, guys. I think that was brilliant. I'm sorry to run away as soon as you say it, but I've got a meeting here at work that I've got to run off to. So I wanted to.
I do too. Autumn, it was
Okay.
great to talk to you.
Absolutely. And Simon,
But-
it's been a pleasure as well, of course.
Bye-bye.
Simon, it's always good.
Yeah, we have to do it again.
We
Maybe,
will.
tomorrow.
No doubt about it. I'm on.
Okay, then.
See you, buddy.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Keith. Thank you, everybody
Absolutely.
that turned
Bye-bye.
up in this strange space. And thank you, Keith.